Morning. We will call this meeting of the March 23rd, 2023, a lot of 23s, of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District Board of Directors to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Vice Chair Aquino?
Here.
Director Daniels?
Here.
Director Desmond? Director Frost?
Here.
Director Guerra? Director Hume? Chair Kennedy?
Here.
Director Laloe? Director Maple?
Here.
Director Papineau?
Here.
Director Cerna?
Here.
Director Singh Allen?
Here.
Director Terry? Director Vang? We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Would everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item would be the board clerk announcement. Members of the public are encouraged to observe the meeting in real time at metro14live.saccounty.gov, participate in person via Zoom video or teleconference line, and by submitting written comments to boardclerk@airquality.org. Comments will be delivered to the Board of Directors. Public comments regarding matters under the jurisdiction of the Board of Directors will be acknowledged by the chairperson, distributed to the Board of Directors, and included in the record. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District is cablecast live on Metro 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast Consolidated Communications, and AT&T UVerse cable system. This meeting is being closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will be repeated on Saturday, March 25th, 2023 at 1 p.m. on Channel 14.
Thank you. Next item or items?
The next item on the agenda would be the consent calendar, items 1 through 4.
Okay. Is there anyone on the board that has any questions or would like or comments on any item on consent?
Move consent.
Second.
And we have a motion from Director Cerna and a second from Director Maple. Is there any public comment?
No, Chair, not at this time.
Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Aquino?
Aye.
Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Desmond? Director Frost?
Aye.
Director Guerra? Director Hume? Chair Kennedy?
Aye.
Director Laloe? Director Maple?
Aye.
Director Papineau?
Aye.
Director Cerna?
Aye.
Director Singh Allen?
Aye.
Director Terry? Director Vang? The consent calendar passes.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Air Pollution Control Officer's report. Dr. Ayala.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, board members. Welcome to Chambers. It's really good to see you guys here. And it's also good to see Director Aquino and Singh Allen taking advantage of this new way of doing business. So this is a new normal for us. So great to see you all. Next slide, please. I just have a couple of very brief announcements for you to be aware of. The first one is all of your offices have this information, so this is just a reminder for you. If you guys are open on April 11th, come out and check out this press event that we are organizing with Pepsi. What this is you may recall a few years back, we funded with our incentive programs the acquisition of 16 zero-emission Tesla heavy-duty trucks for Pepsi. The trucks finally arrived, and because this is a big deal, we want to participate in a community event so that we can roll out the technology. This is really the Sacramento region participating in the transition to the green economy. I mean, this is a big deal. It's important because this sector, the large vehicle sector, is going to be the toughest to electrify. And the fact that you've got notable OEM, Tesla, coming to the market with these vehicles, perhaps this is the future for zero emissions for the trucking industry. It's not the only solution, but again, we celebrate the fact that these are going to be running around our communities and not polluting our communities. So come out and celebrate with us. And again, the message for you all, this is obviously a very large corporation. We want to do this kind of technology deployment with municipal and local fleets. So go back to your jurisdictions, let your fleet managers know. We'd love to work with you and your fleets to make sure that we begin to trickle down the technology as it becomes available. Next slide, please. So speaking of great events as well, again, what a remarkable example of just creativity. And I have to acknowledge, kudos to Mr. Lemos, whose original idea has blossomed into this, an electric vehicle, zero-emission lowrider that the district, and you can see the rest of the partners, are currently in the process of putting together. First of its kind in the world, right? And I can't think of a more culturally relevant application of what that technology can do for us than to try to do this. And the fact that they're actually doing it with school kids that are still young and just getting exposed to the technologies. I mean, this one really checks the box. Channel 3 came out last week and did some video footing. They're putting together a story. So I do invite you to track it, and obviously we'll let you know when it's ready to go. We definitely want to showcase this vehicle, not only regionally, but we have plans with our partners across the nation who want to check it out and see it. So keep track of that. We'll keep you informed. Next, please. And then the last thing I have for you, again, I'm sure you're all hearing there's a lot of federal government funding coming down in the form of the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. So some of that money is going to funnel through EPA for agencies like us. And at the moment, we are in the middle of preparing a response to a solicitation for specifically one of 6 programs that EPA is putting in place. And this one hits us directly, the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. We are working with the county, with the city, Folsom and Roseville, who were identified as part of the MSA, one out of 67 throughout the country that got an invitation from EPA to participate. And we're sort of bringing everybody together. We want to take the lead, get organized, raise our hands, say we want to participate. So this is just to inform you that the district is playing this role. Next slide. And this is the last one, just an FYI. I trust that you have seen this in your inbox. But as we discussed last time, we put together an advisory talking about, again, the new normal, teleworking, the benefits for air quality, and we sent it out pretty widely in the region. We probably had about 300 total recipients, including state heads and local and regional heads of agencies. So again, the message is, as we discussed, clearly VMT is the source of many of our air and climate pollution, and to the extent that we can avoid it, the air quality benefit is going to be there. So with that, thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Ayala. Members of the board, Director Maple.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dr. Ayala, for that report. And my first question is how do we get the EV lowrider out to our events? Because I have an event coming up on June 11th that we're actually getting a bunch of lowriders to come out. I think that would be an amazing event contribution to that, but not sure of the timeline.
Yeah, thank you. I have to admit, I jumped the gun a little because we are actually building it, so it's not ready yet. But absolutely. I mean, you can trust that as soon as this is ready to go, we want to showcase it and bring it to our communities. And like I said, we have wide interest throughout the nation, our partners, when we talk about this. So I'll let Mr. Lemos chime in case he wants to add anything else. He's directly, obviously, overseeing this project.
Yeah, thank you, Director Maple. We know that this project is going to get a lot of interest, and so we hope to finish this the conversion by the end of May. And so I think we're really targeting to hit the EVS 36 Summit, and then once we complete it, we have plans with SMUD and all of the partners to showcase it. So happy to take down those dates and information so that we can be able to showcase it. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that might be the Torley Park event that you might be even referring to.
That's right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And just for all of you to know, we're actually, as a part of the project, we're going to have a flatbed, and that's how we're going to transport the vehicle around because, I mean, even our friends in New York want to see it. So we have to start thinking about how do we get it from
That's a
to
long
different
drive.
places.
Yeah.
It's a long drive, and unfortunately, the flatbed is not going to be zero emission. But anyways,
Well, and I also
Well-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we do have plans on using a zero emission heavy duty vehicle to transport at least locally if necessary, if it does exceed the range, like if we need to go throughout California or even the Southwest. But even the storage trailer we do plan on upfitting so it can have charging capacity as well. And our friends at SMUD are also working with us on this.
Wonderful. Well, looking forward to that. We'll keep you in the loop on that event. And the other thing I just wanted to add is about the telework report. I think this is a really important and timely document because, as you know, there are conversations happening at the state level all the way down about what does it mean? Do workers, especially at the state level, come back to work? How often are they in the office? And that's something that SEIU 1000 and a lot of the other unions that represent state workers are currently looking at. So I think this will be of interest to a lot of folks at the state level all the way down. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cerna.
Thank you. So back to the lowrider subject. A couple of suggestions. If the Hispanic Chamber has not been approached yet to partner, I would highly suggest that Jaime or someone at the Air District reach out to the Hispanic Chamber. I suspect they might be interested in also helping to sponsor its construction or its appearance at various events. And then the second suggestion, and I would hope that Directors Maple and Kennedy would agree, is I think it would be most appropriate if its initial appearance to the public takes place on Franklin Boulevard somewhere. So, thank you.
Director Serna, you are not far from from our thoughts already. The Franklin Boulevard is really was the priority to showcase this, as you know, the Back to the Boulevard event, and of course, we had to select a convertible so that we can parade some of the elected officials through Franklin Boulevard as well. And so those were key priorities. Those are still key priorities that we're looking at. And so once we finalize the project, I think that we're going to have to revisit a lot of where we want to showcase first and all of that. As far as the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we did speak to Kathy from the Chamber of Commerce. And so it'll be more of a follow-up to also check in with her as far as her participation and the Chamber's participation.
Great.
But
Thank
thanks
you.
for that reminder.
and if I may, Chair, real quick, the point is well taken. Let's start thinking about the second one. Let's not get caught up in the first one, right? I mean, honestly, the way that this is going to work is if the electrified technology becomes secondary, it's in the background. No matter the application, you can go zero emissions. And I think that's the power and the potential of what you have in front of you. So thank you for the comments.
So it looks like that's a 64 Impala platform. I would suggest that the next one either be a lowrider truck platform or an oldie. So just some thoughts.
Director Daniels.
Thank you. It's been a couple of years, I think, but is the Pepsi truck thing, was that connected to also putting infrastructure in there for charging, and that charging would be available to other sources besides just the Pepsi trucks?
So you are correct, Director Daniels, good memory. Definitely SMUD is involved because of obviously the very significant demand on additional power at the site. The conversation we've had with them is the infrastructure is explicitly for these trucks for Pepsi, but the thinking is that now that you've laid the groundwork, eventually we are able to support other deployments. So we're kind of moving in that direction, but at this point in time, we're simply meeting the demands for this particular fleet.
And then on that, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or mixing up projects, that was also, there was discussion that where that funding would, would it come back to us? Would it come back to taxpayers? How that would work?
Yeah, and again, it comes back to us in the form of the emission reductions and reducing the burden on the community. These are public dollars. It's the state's cap and trade climate investments. It's local dollars that we're putting for this fleet. So
I meant more on the angle of if other external sources use that area or use those charging areas, that they have to pay to do that, and that money would then come back to either us or something like that.
So the way that would happen, that scenario would play out, is we would use the existing infrastructure that SMUD has already laid out and then fund additional charging points. And those can be made public. And depending on the setup, I mean, we have programs where we subsidize people charging. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they would have to necessarily pay. But let me turn again to Mr. Lemos. He's directing this project again. So Jaime, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I remember that conversation, Director Daniels. And yes, Dr. Alberto Ayala is correct on this specific project where we had to focus on the charging capacity for the Pepsi trucks. But in doing so, we are trying to future ready the grid as much as possible for additional fleets in the region. As our director has mentioned, if there is another entity that wants to pursue the charging capacity or capability, then that's something that we can also fund and look into. As far as getting revenue from the charging, it makes things a little bit complicated because in some cases we would have to be the owners of that charging infrastructure if we, the district, wants to have the revenue back. However, we do have the city and the county also who also have that capability. And so in the light duty sector, we are working with the city on putting public chargers out so that the city can generate some of that revenue. So as local jurisdictions do apply for our incentive programs in general, not just in this specific case with Pepsi, but in general, there is an opportunity for the cities to generate that revenue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just have a few comments. One is do you know how many of these Teslas are out there? We have 16, but nationwide, or how many are there? So
Pepsi is getting an additional 5, so the fleet here will have 21, okay. And down in the valley, I think they've got another 20, 25 or so. So I think total between us and the San Joaquin Valley, we're probably looking at close to 50 trucks. So
and is that it?
That's it.
So we're like, I mean, so that makes us the leader.
Yes, yeah, right. That's the relevance, right? I mean, we've been waiting for these trucks for a while. I took a tour with friends up to go see the Gigafactory, so we knew that they were actually building them. But the fact that they're here, and they're not the only ones. That's the good news. I mean, just this week we had another manufacturer, Nikola, in town. I was driving around in a fuel cell hydrogen truck like that, too. So you're going to start to see more and more of this technology. And again, work with your municipalities and your jurisdictions. Send them our way so that we can get those fleets as well electrified.
Okay, and then just quickly, Jaime, as somebody who used to schedule converted electric vehicles for special events and the use of elected officials, you're going to have to dedicate an intern to this because you're going to have a lot of response. Trust me. But another, on a more serious note, at SMUD we partnered with in converting. We partnered with high schools and community colleges to help convert and help them get them in the pipeline of electric vehicle technology and all that. And I hope we'll consider that in future endeavors.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yes, we are definitely working with the Franklin Boulevard, also some of the auto body folks there, and Woodland schools as well. We know that some of the schools have auto body shop programs still, and so we'll be tapping into them. I think that part of this, the big thing that we really wanted to showcase here was that we can create a curriculum for students, right, in the high school grades to get them excited about, the EV revolution, right? And so I invite everybody to attend one of the SAVA events that we have with them. The kids are just absolutely excited to be working on this. And then the other part of this is that the community themselves, the traditional lowrider community is really excited and has really embraced the EV technology. And we thought that maybe they would be a little resistant, but they are really all over this. And it's really exciting to see the students, the engineering gurus that work with EV technology, and then the traditional lowriding folks. And to put them all together in a room and brainstorm on this project has been really, really one of the most amazing things I've been a part of.
Great, thank you. Director Cerna.
Thank you. Not to turn this into a brainstorming exercise on lowriders, but it just occurred to me that maybe one of the things we might want to do is see if we could get a local body shop to re-chrome the front and rear bumpers using the non-hexavalent process, and that way you can kill two birds with one lowrider. So.
I love that. So for the rest of you, because I think Director Cerna is still talking in ARB code. So the state just approved a new regulation to lower the emissions of chrome, which is very toxic. So there's a new method that is much more environmentally friendly. So what he's talking about is precisely that, is to demonstrate that the new method works, the technology is there, and now we can use it. So no, that's, keep it coming, because again, we have to connect the dots, right? And speaking of that, if I may, Chair, to Director Maple, I just realized she's the only one from our Sacramento delegation. Back on the workforce development opportunities with the lowrider, the city of Sacramento just released a solicitation, and you're asking for programs that connect kids to the future green tech, right? I mean, here's your perfect example. So thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
The next item on the agenda, public hearing item number 6, adopt amendments to Rule 307, Clean Air Act fees, and I have Mark Cooley here to give a presentation.
Good morning, Chair Kennedy and directors of the board. I'm Mark Cooley, and I work on role development in the Program Coordination Division. Before you today are proposed amendments to Rule 307, Clean Air Act penalty fees. Next slide. As you know, the district does not meet ozone standards and is designated in a severe non-attainment area for the 97, 2008, and 2015 ozone standards. As a result of that designation, the Clean Air Act requires the district to implement a penalty fee rule on major sources of nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds. However, the fee is only assessed if EPA makes a formal finding of failure to attain an ozone standard. The existing Rule 307 does not meet federal requirements, as the current rule only applies to the old revoked 1979 standard and not the newer standards. Next slide, please. In addition, Rule 307 needs to be amended because EPA made a formal finding that the district has failed to submit a penalty fee rule for the 2008 ozone standard. The district must amend Rule 307 or face sanctions listed here, which is increased offset requirements and withholding highway funds if the rule is not amended. Next slide. Staff's proposal is to expand the applicability of the rule to the newer ozone standards. In addition, some minor changes were made for clarity in the rule. Upon approval, staff will submit the rule and the necessary documents to the Air Resources Board, who will forward those to EPA to stop the sanctions clock. Next slide, please. Here you can see a map of the major sources subject to Rule 307. These include things like power plants, manufacturing facilities, Kiefer landfill, and other manufacturing, industrial, commercial facilities. Next slide, please. As with other rulemaking, staff conducted extensive outreach for this rule, including a workshop held in February. In addition to the normal process, staff personally contacted all affected major stationary sources. Staff did receive written comments after the workshop from EPA, and staff worked with EPA and made changes to the rule to address any rule approvability issues. Today's hearing also included the same notification and, as required by law, a public notice in the Sacramento Bee. Next slide, please. Staff also heard from EPA by phone that requested 2 minor non-substantive changes. Staff made these changes. They're listed here. Again, these were considered non-substantive and are already in the documents that were posted for the board agenda. These changes have no effect on rule implementation. They just are for clarity. Next slide, please. Staff's recommendation is to open the public hearing and conduct a public hearing, determine that the amendments to the rule are exempt from CEQA, approve the resolution adopting the amended rule, which will direct staff to forward the documents to the Air Resources Board for submittal to the US EPA to stop the sanctions clock. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Before we go to a public hearing, is there any member of the board that has any questions at this time? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Is there any member of the public that would like to address the board at this time on this issue?
No, Chair, there is not.
And no one online?
Nobody online.
Thank you very much. Then I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Director Cerna and a second by Director Desmond. Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Aquino?
Aye.
Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Desmond?
Aye.
Director Frost?
Aye.
Director Guerra? Director Hume? Chair Kennedy?
Aye.
Director Laloe? Director Maple?
Aye.
And Director Papineau?
Aye.
Director Cerna?
Aye.
Director Singh Allen?
Aye.
Director Terry? Director Vang? This item passes.
Next item, please.
The next item on the agenda, item number 7 on the discussion calendar, Sac Metro Air District Hearing Board Overview, and I have Amy Roberts here to give a presentation.
Good morning, Chair Kennedy and members of the board. My name is Amy Roberts, and I'm the division manager. Hi there. Division manager of the Stationary Source Division, which is our engineering and compliance arm of the Air District. Today, I'll be providing you with a general overview of the Air District Hearing Board. And if you recall, in the January board meeting, we did have a discussion about appointment of new hearing boards that's done by this body. Today's presentation is going to round out that discussion with you and give you some additional information on the hearing board's authority, what types of items come before the board, and just some basics about the hearing board process. Next slide, please. So the hearing board is an independent entity. They're authorized to hear various petitions and grant relief from air quality regulations if certain conditions are met. As you know, the hearing board members themselves are appointed by you, and the California law dictates the type and number of hearing board members. One must be a medical professional, one must be a professional engineer, one is a lawyer, and there are 2 general members of the public. This assures that there's some level of expertise at the table when assessing items that are related to public health and that are technical and legal in nature. Next slide, please. We have our 5 hearing boards represented here, and they do serve 3-year terms. As you see in the consent item, we do have one of those members that's being reappointed, and they are an incumbent member. So here's Dr. Wires. At the top of the list is the chair of the hearing board. Next slide, please. The hearing board is authorized to hear, as I mentioned, certain types of petitions, and these come from both businesses and from the Air District. Most requests do come from businesses that are seeking relief from permit conditions and that they are or will not be able to comply with. These are known as variance requests, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on variance requests in just a moment. The hearing board is also authorized to hear other petitions by businesses, such as if a permit application was denied by the Air District. As I mentioned, just not businesses submit petitions to the hearing board. The Air District can also be the petitioner to request such things as a permit revocation or abatement orders that would require a business operating to take certain actions to come back into compliance or to even shut down. These types of requests, like abatement orders, are very rare for the district to bring forward to the hearing board, and they're usually for very serious violations or recalcitrant violators. Next slide, please. So the hearing board does not hear every type of complaint or request. They are not authorized to modify an already adopted rule, for example, and they cannot permanently exempt a business from complying with our rules and regulations. They're not authorized either to review notices of violations that have been issued and weigh in on those actions. And importantly, while the hearing board can grant temporary relief for a company to operate out of compliance, they can't grant that relief if there is any type of public nuisance that's involved, just to make sure that there's no harm to the public or any harm to property. This is an important backstop that's set up within the hearing board. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, almost all of the petitions that come before the hearing board are variance requests. Therefore, I'll provide you with some additional details on that in these next two slides. Variances are temporary exemptions for a business to operate outside of normal rule requirements. And when they are granted, they'll relieve a business from penalties that would normally be issued to those businesses when they're operating in violation. The number of variances heard by the Sacramento Air District every year is fairly low, but they will typically hear anywhere from 2 to 3 variances. One thing to note, variances can't be given for relief of federal regulatory requirements. They are for local and state requirements. And there is a difference in the variance types that a business can apply for. And those usually are surrounding whether the business needs immediate relief or if they need some longer-term relief. The different types include emergency, interim, short-term, and regular variance requests. So for example, a business that might have had a catastrophic equipment failure and they need immediate relief and they can't fix it within 24 hours, they might be seeking an emergency variance. If they need that longer-term relief, for example, greater than 90 days, they might be seeking a regular variance. Next slide, please. Thought I'd give you just a little bit more context and walk you through what we would consider a typical scenario for a company seeking a variance with a made-up company with the very creative name company ABC. So we have many industrial facilities in the Sacramento area that emit air pollution. And I have company ABC who's manufacturing mirrors like the slide that you see in this picture here. Mirror manufacturing requires that company to use a lot of different solvents and coatings in that process that contain volatile organic compounds, and they must be controlled in the permit conditions. They have to put on control equipment in order to reduce those emissions. If ABC's control equipment were to break down, they would be in violation of their permit. And to get back into compliance, the company could choose to shut their operation down and not be in non-compliance. But as you can imagine, that would probably be a hindrance to them and be a financial burden, especially if it's going to take a long period of time, several months sometimes. Especially we saw that in the pandemic where we had a lot of companies that there were supply chain issues you have heard about. And so we had several companies coming because they were going to have long delays in getting those repairs made and new equipment brought forward. So in this case, ABC would most likely be choosing to come to the hearing board and apply for a variance. Next slide, please. So like the example that I just went through in company ABC, the hearing board process usually starts with that company coming to the district and talking with district staff just to run through the specifics, all those details behind the violation or the potential violation, and really walk through the details and see what the options are. Most likely, if we've agreed there's a variance is a good option, that company can voluntarily choose to apply for a variance, and they would work with the hearing board clerk. So they would apply, they submit their application and all of their various application fees in order to get that variance hearing started. And there is a public noticing process, so the variance will need to go through the minimum number of days to be posted. And again, it also depends on the type of variance that's selected. During the hearing, both district staff and the applicant present information to the hearing board, and there are 6 findings that the hearing board will need to make in order for that variance to be granted. So the hearing board is usually trying to determine whether or not there was actually a violation, so they need to know why and how the air quality requirements are being violated. They need to know whether the violation could have been prevented and what is being done to correct the violation and when that correction will actually happen. What will happen to the business if they're forced to shut down is an important area that they're looking at. They also want to know how the violation affects the public, again, going to make sure that there's no public nuisance that is going to be caused by that variance. And what efforts can be made to reduce any excess emissions during the time of operating in noncompliance. The district can be in support of a variance. They can not support a variance, or they can be neutral to that. And that's usually discussed in the hearing board presentation. The district also usually suggests certain conditions on that variance, and they'll put those forward to the board for consideration to make sure that, again, there's a reduction in the amount of emissions to the greatest extent possible. These hearings are open to the public, and the public can ask questions, they can bring in information or experts to the table as well during those hearings. The hearing board members, after hearing the district, the business, and the public information, they'll deliberate, vote, and they'll also determine the length of time of that variance and any of the conditions that they're going to approve. Next slide, please. On this last slide, I wanted to highlight for you the benefits of having a hearing board. And as an independent body, the hearing board decisions are made by assessing information from, as I just mentioned, both businesses and the district to assure fair decision making on important matters that are related to public health and business operations. So the business community, for them, it is a valuable forum to be able to appeal district decisions that can have serious consequences on their business and on their employees. The hearing board is also a public meeting, so it's a transparent process, and anyone can comment on the matters before the hearing board, either in favor of or against the proposed actions. And lastly, because of the independent and public nature of these hearings, the decisions of the hearing board give a solid foundation for the district to proceed, whether or not there was initial support or non-support of the position that's being taken. That concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Do we have any public comment?
Not at this time, Chair.
All right, this is a receive and file. Thank you very much, Amy, for your report. Next item.
The next item on the discussion calendar, excuse me, item number 8, Community Air Protection, South Sacramento Flora and Community Program Update, and I have Marina Franceschi here to give a presentation.
Good morning, Chair Kennedy and members of the board. My name is Marina Franceschi. I'm an Associate Air Quality Planner in the Program Coordination Division, and I work on the AB 617 program, also called the Community Air Protection Program, that I'm here to give you an update on today. If you could please go to the next slide.
Yeah, Marina, the mics work better if you lower them and if you check between the two of them. Yeah,
thank you.
So there you go.
Some adjusting.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Let me know if anything needs to change.
You got a lot of people on this board that are older than you are.
And taller. So first, for some background on the program, this program started out in 2018 with 10 communities across the state. We are now up to 19. The CARB board adds several more communities every year across the state, and so now we are currently at all of these yellow dots across the map. The AB 617 is an environmental justice program, so it is intended to improve air quality in communities that are disproportionately impacted by air pollution. It helps us get a closer look at air pollution in communities rather than more of the regional look that our historical network has provided us. And then after we have more of that in-depth look on the pollution in the community, we focus on taking actions to reduce emissions and reduce exposure in the community as well. And so this looks different depending on where the program is taking place and is personalized for each community that's participating. Next slide, please. So we have been working in South Sacramento, Florida since the beginning of the program, since 2018, and it's one of the year one communities, and this is a quick historical timeline of our progress over the years with our steering committee and with our community members. So I'll run through that real quickly. In 2019, our main focus was developing our community air monitoring plan, our CAMP, and then in 2020, we began implementing our phase 2 monitoring, and in 2021, we began bringing back our preliminary data results to our steering committee, and 2022 and 2023 gearing up for deploying our phase 3 air monitoring. And throughout this whole period too, we have been implementing enhanced enforcement and incentives projects as well, along with our work with our steering committee members. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that we've done the air monitoring in multiple phases, and I'll quickly walk through the first two. Phase 1 took place at all of the blue dots in the map on the right. It's a little hard to see. And these were using portable sensors that you can see on the left, and they were measuring for particulate matter 2.5. And that phase generates live data that you can actually see on our website at that link right there. And then phase 2 was measuring toxics and specific types of chemicals. And those were sensors located at the green dots on the map there. And the equipment photo is in the middle just for comparison of the different kinds of equipment that we've been using. And that data is also available on our website. So I'll add that the main purpose of phase 1 and phase 2 was really to help us determine where to locate our phase 3 portable lab. These locations of these monitors were decided collaboratively with our steering committee. We have many members who have been living in the community their whole lives, and so they had experience to help us determine where to site these. Next slide, please. So this is summarizing what we found in phase 1 and phase 2, and really the message here is that these first two phases helped us decide where to locate our phase 3. In phase 1, we found that all of our sensors measured very similarly to each other, which was good news. And then in phase 2, again, our sites measured quite similarly with slightly higher concentrations in our locations in the northwest corner of the community. And you can see some lovely photos of our steering committee members here when we were deciding those locations. Next slide, please. So this brings us to the last phase, is the portable monitoring laboratory. This is actually on site already at Fern-Bacon Middle School at the red star in the corner. And this lab has a suite of professional grade air quality monitors within it. It's worth mentioning this lab has equipment that is on the same, it is the same regulatory grade as our equipment that we use in our regulatory stations across our network. And so this measures, in comparison to those stations, this lab monitors a wider breadth of pollutants than some of those existing regulatory stations. So it is a significant achievement for the steering committee and for the community to get this lab deployed and in the community and gathering this level and quality of data. Next slide, please. And so this brings me to our debut event, where we will be showcasing our portable lab. It'll be on Saturday, April 29th from 8:30 to 11:30 in the morning. We are co-hosting this with our steering committee members, and this is a plug for their website, saccleanair.com as well. And this is really to celebrate the culmination of all those years that we just walked through of the monitoring work that we've done with the community. They are very excited to showcase this lab and share this information with the community and spread more air quality awareness in general. So we'll be having tours of the lab there and staff available so people can come take a look at what the equipment is and learn about air quality and what we're monitoring there. And then also food and kids activities, and while supplies last, some DIY air filters for community members to take home. And so you are all, of course, welcome to come and attend the event. It's a great opportunity to meet some of our steering committee members as well as community members in general and learn more about air quality. Next slide, please. And so this brings me to our next steps beyond the event, is to continue analyzing the data and sharing back what we're seeing in the results with our steering committee and with our community members. as well as increasing community outreach and engagement. It's been a bit tricky since the pandemic to re-engage with community members, and so hopefully this event will help us, kickstart that again. And then also preparation work on local strategies to reduce emissions, reduce exposure in the community. We are anticipating increasing this work in the next few years, and a lot of these actions are going to be things that are beyond the district's purview and will require more collaboration with some of our partners. And so we're expecting an increase in that work in the coming years. And then lastly, to continue to advocate to the state for the additional funding that is needed for this program. I think I mentioned earlier that this program started in 2018, and we have maintained the same level of funding from the state for 10 communities as we now have for 19. And so this is now being spread thinner across the state. And one of our big needs to continue to implement the program effectively is to continue to advocate for more funding, not just across the state, but also within Sacramento. We have other communities that we've identified as eligible to participate that we would like to add to the program, and that is contingent upon securing this additional funding in the future. And so that concludes my update. Thank you for your time, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Director Daniels.
Oh, thanks. On the portable lab launch, good thinking about the free food. That'll get people out, so good job. And then it's portable. So is the plan to eventually move it somewhere else, or is it going to just stay there and monitor that area?
It'll be there for at least 6 months, most likely a year, so that we can get the full view of all of the seasonality of the pollutants. And that would be the most helpful for the community to be able to really communicate how things vary by season. Beyond that, that is a conversation with ourselves and with our steering committee and community members on if there are other locations they would like to site it at. I will say it was tricky to find a property that would allow us to site this. It is a sizable lab, and you're asking property owners to allow us to be there for an entire year and have our equipment on site. So we don't have, locations in mind beyond this. That is future conversation, yeah.
And so the concerns for that area, are the problems mainly from within that area or from outside that area, or a combination? Because it looks like it's located like right on the edge near a border. So in that area, do you know if it comes from outer areas and comes into the area, or it's just a mix of everything?
Yeah, we're in the process of doing some of that source apportionment analysis right now to figure out where these results are coming from. So right now, what we have been able to share is more preliminary data on those first 2 phases, and part of this portable lab is intended to help us figure out that question.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Director Maple.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. One of the things that I found in many conversations on the campaign trail is that air quality is a major concern for folks in South Sacramento, and we already know that. That's why you're doing the work that you're doing. So I really appreciate the in-person event and bringing activities together, especially for young people, to get engaged, to be a part of the process, to understand how air quality is impacting them. And I actually was at Fern Bacon last night for a town hall, and I didn't see it. So I wish I'm looking forward to going back there and participating in the event. And let me know if my office can support you at all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I see no other board members. I have one question. I'm going to direct this actually to Dr. Ayala, because we've had multiple conversations on this subject. And some people have claimed that these air monitors that we're placing are not in compliance with various regulatory agencies, and therefore the data that's derived isn't scientifically significant or meaningful. Would you address that issue, please?
Well, that's a misunderstanding and a falsehood, right? Because, it's different tools for different jobs, right? That's really, it boils down to that. And we continue to be interested and promote more tools, better tools, all kinds of tools, expensive tools, cheap tools, tools that sit, tools that move. So, we're interested in just having our community having access to these very powerful new ways of looking and better understanding air pollution. And to Director Daniels, this becomes a very powerful new tool that we didn't have, right? Where, to your point, If we have an issue in Citrus Heights, now we have a mobile lab station that can go there. But again, to your point, Chair Kennedy, it's just different tools for different things.
And as a follow-up, Director Stern and I were having a brief conversation there. In the past, when I've looked at and we've talked about placing additional monitors in this general area, the scientists, including yourself on our staff, have told me we really have solid coverage based upon this program in this area. Is that true?
Yes, and Ms. Franceschi just made the point, right? We did the phase 1 and phase 2 study, and we are finding, as we suspected, that air pollution is regionally distributed. There are no hot spots, right? There are no, we're turning every stone and we're not finding any big surprises. There are some things that we want to understand a little better. But to your point, we have a good understanding. And again, we're not the only ones. The Air Resources Board is very active understanding and sharing information with us about how air pollution is distributed in our region and throughout the state. Again, we've been looking at this for a while, not just under AB 617. And then the last thing I'll say is we're very fortunate because in the last few decade or so, we have this new sensor technology, right? I mean, these are affordable, portable, new technology, easy to use, easy to understand. So what we are trying to do is, in a more organized and logical way, bring all those pieces of new technology together to gather the information that our community need, to gather the information that we need, not only to meet our clean air requirements, which we will continue to do, but more importantly, to provide the information to your constituents so that we can really get past the misunderstandings and get past the opinions and the impressions and actually provide the evidence so that we can have an intelligent conversation.
So science-based discussions. Thank you. Director Papineau.
Thank you for the presentation, and the question is for whoever can answer it. One of the earlier slides referenced enhanced enforcement, and if you could explain a little bit of how that process works.
I'll take it. Marina's looking at me. Within our means, within our limited resources, we are really challenging ourselves to do better and to do what we can to be much more responsive to these environmental justice concerns in our community. And they're not unique to our community. It's happening throughout the state and the country. And one of the ideas that Ms. Roberts and her group in permitting and compliance had was that if there are environmental justice concerns in certain communities, we can do enhanced permitting and enforcement and inspections in that area before we go to other areas that perhaps don't have the same concerns. So the way I think about it, Director Papineau, is we are fine-tuning the limited resources we have, and if we're all in agreement that environmental justice is a priority for us, which is, then we're going to do enhanced activities, first and foremost, in these communities. And again, the idea is not only to educate ourselves, but also to share with the community. And luckily, thus far, again, we're not finding any surprises, if you will.
Thank you. I see no other directors punched in. Is there any members of the public?
Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much for your report. Very well done. The next item is board ideas, comments, and AB 1234 reports. Anyone from the board? Okay. Do we have any public comment on an item that's not on the agenda?
Not at this time.
Anyone in the room? Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. Good to see you again, and we're adjourned.